Good evening and welcome to the Angercast. This is a rant. So if you've been living under a rock for the past 24 to 48 hours, you probably have not heard anything about the word stonk, S-T-O-N-K, or wondered why GameStop has been trending in the news and on social media. Quite honestly, I really can't explain it to you in very succinct terms, but this is the kind of thing that interests me, and I wanted to get these thoughts out of my head and share them all with you, and we're going to do it playing my favorite clicker game, Adventure Capitalist, which I haven't touched for a while, and I'd like to see what's happening in that game and how much money I have or don't have, because I'll never have that kind of money in real life. So, okay, let's take it back. Let's take it way back to about 2015. 2015, there was a movie came out called The Big Short. If you've never watched that, I highly suggest you clear out time and turn off your phone and just focus on watching the TV or watching the screen and listen and understand what happened in that movie. Basically, this is a story, an adapted story from a book about the subprime mortgage housing lender, that whole crisis back in 2008-ish, and a guy by the name of Michael Burry, B-U-R-R-Y, played by Christian Bale in the movie. And what happens is that he starts to notice these trends in the marketing, or in Wall Street, in the market, that these home loans, these subprime home loans that were packaged and repackaged and sold and bought and whatever, were going to default. Basically because what happened was, and of course I have to go even further back, but we won't do that yet. But what happens is that he realizes that people aren't going to be able to pay for their home loans. It's going to cause these loans to default, and the people who hold these loans in a package from these hedge funds are going to lose a shnikey ton of money, and the entire economy is going to collapse. That was what The Big Short was about, and it's just the peeling back of Lehman Brothers and that whole scandal, and why things that were done were really, really, really bad. Flash forward to 2019, Michael Burry becomes a kind of a big name again, in that he and his investment firm somehow own 2.4% of GameStop stock. Okay? Yeah. Actually, I think maybe closer, a bit bigger. Who knows? But the idea is that GameStop, for those of you who are of an age that remember what it was like in the golden age of consoles and discs and all that stuff, GameStop was as a store that you could go and buy used games from, or sell your games at like pennies on the dollar. It's a joke. A lot of fun things surrounding that, but they once we got into the video game downloads and the games like the vaults, Steam and GOG and all these other games that didn't require you to be able to hold the optical disc that goes into a hard drive, and as technology advanced, where you didn't have a physical disc drive on your computer or your console where you could just rely on downloads to play. In fact, the PS5 has an option where you don't have to have an optical drive on it. The position of GameStop in the brick and mortar world, it was on shaky ground. Basically, Amazon, Walmart, all the places that you think about how the mom and pop stores out in the world became a thing of the past thanks to places like Walmart and Amazon. Now GameStop, because of technology, was going to go away, and quite frankly there was no place for them in this world. But they were kind of hanging around. They were like that one Blockbuster that was up in like Alaska or something like that. There was still one of them out there, and it was still hanging around. So for some reason, Michael Burry decides that GameStop has a place in the future, because seeing how technology was going to work with the PlayStation 5 and the newer Xbox console, there was still going to be a need for discs. There was still going to be a market for discs. And what happens is okay, fine. A bunch of guys go out there, or kids go out there. Don't want to say genderless. Women will play video games. Men play video games. We all play video games. I play video games. I'm 45 years old. I play video games. But anyways, that's beside the point. But there's going to be a need for people to have discs with this PlayStation 5 and the Xbox that's coming out. There is going to be a need for people going out there and buying games, playing them, and then selling them back or getting rid of them or wanting to buy used games. So now, all of a sudden, GameStop has a place in the world because of this new technology spawning a marketplace for optical discs, physical property. And he identifies that, and he says, you know what, we better jump on this. And so he buys up, like, I think it was, a crap ton of their stock. Now, let's kind of like convert this into an understandable position. Let's say that he goes and he buys maybe $10,000 worth of GameStop stock, GME as it's traded on. And he holds on to it, and he identifies, and he talks about it. And then people start to look at it and say, wait a second, what's going on here? What does he see? Maybe we should get in on this. So they start to see that the stock price, and they're following his story, they see the stock price goes down and down and down and down, and they notice that Michael Burry is now maybe in the hole for $15,000 on the initial $10,000 investment. They're like, like he's going to lose it all. But then all of a sudden something weird happens, and the price starts going up. And the price keeps going up, and it's still going up. And people are like, wait a second, he knows something, so let's start buying it. Now, enter in technology again with something called the Robinhood app. Now, the Robinhood app is a way for anybody, any bro, to go out and do commissionless trades on the stock market. And it's somewhat risky because it can kind of get you, it's like gambling. It's going to get you, and if you don't have the discipline to not abuse it, it's just you're pushing buttons on your phone. You don't really think about real world consequences, and you end up selling your entire life down the river. But people can now bypass the day trade. They can do day trades and bypass the Wall Street and the brokerages and the hedge fund guy. They think and use the Robinhood app. Now, but what the thing is the Robinhood app buys it from. You're basically you're feeding into the hedge fund guys. So Robinhood app is out there, and people can do day trades, and they see this whole thing. And because it's a technology-driven thing, and the millennials and all that other bullshit that you want to talk about, and throw tags on it and hashtag it and buzzwords with it, they start buying up some stock. But what we don't notice is in the background, the hedge fund guys are sitting there going, look, I got an idea. This is how they work. They short squeeze. They short sell stocks, and they do this. They do this by this. They go to like say GameStop and say, you know what? Give me 100 shares of GameStop stock at $5 a share. Okay, so they spend $500 and they get 100 shares. They then turn around and try to sell that to somebody, like the Robinhood app. They guess where they get the shares from, whatever. They sell that stock to them at the price of $500. So okay, fine. They are borrowing that. It's like, look, I'm just borrowing GameStop stock. I'm only out for $500 that I have to eventually pay back that stock to. It doesn't matter how I get it there. I have to give them that much. So they sell the GameStop stock to this uninformed investor for $500, thinking and hoping and praying that the stock goes down. So let's say the stock goes down to $1 a stock. So now 100 stocks at $5 a share that was originally purchased at $500 is now only worth $100 because it's 100 shares at $1, if I did my math correctly. Then they go back to that person and say, look, you took a bath. You want to unload that stock. All right, we'll buy it back from you at the price. Now, granted, they've already made $500 just by selling them this stuff. And they're only going to give them $100 back to buy the stock back from them, those 100 shares. So now they've got 100 shares of GameStop stock and $400 in profit. And then they go back to GameStop and say, you know what, we agreed upon this date. Here you go. Here's your 100 shares of GameStop back. I pocket the $400. GameStop gets their stock back, and the price then fluctuates because of that. On the surface, it seems pretty, benign. But what happens is that the Reddit community, Wall Street whatever it is, the boards, I don't know what they did, and this is where I'm sort of having trouble figuring it out. They figured out that if the hedge fund guys, and I can only liken this to maybe the possibility of this like a K-pop thing where, how the internet and the young people of America just decided to screw over other people by hijacking movements away from people. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? But what happened was that somebody identified that this was happening, and a bunch of people got in there and said, you know what, these hedge fund guys are selling the stock to us because they're trying to short the market. Well, we're gonna stick it to them. So then they buy the stock from the hedge fund guys at a price. Now, instead of the stock going down to that $100 mark where they could then sell it back to the hedge fund guy for a loss, all of a sudden it explodes and it goes up and it goes up, and it's like now it's $100. Now instead of being a dollar per stock or $5 per stock, it's now $100 per stock. So that initial investment that the hedge fund bro guy sold to $5 per stock times 100 equals $500, right? That we all know. So now that 100 times a 100, so now you have that stock price at $100 per share instead of just $5 per share, let alone $1 per share. That gives you $10,000. So now the hedge fund guy in the middle is going, oh crap, I have to figure out a way to get this money back, these stocks back from this kid with a phone app to give it back to, because I owe him to the GameStop. But now the price is not $1 per share like I expected. It's now $100 per share. So now I'm going to be at a loss. I'm gonna take a bath at $9,500 to buy back that stock, and then have to turn around and give that thing. So I'm now losing $9,500. So now all the hedge fund guys who have been taking, and understand something, hedge fund guys take money from investors. It's not their own money. They play with people's money and they buy this stuff. So now they have to call, tell these people, like, I lost all your money, dude, because I went up against a kid with a phone app. And the other problem was because they were trying to short it and everybody was jumping in on it. They had overpromised They actually sold stock to people that they didn't actually have. It's like saying, hey, I have a car and I'm going to sell it to my neighbor and I'm also going to sell it to my brother. Both of them use the car, and neither one of them knows the other exists and has access to the car, and then the car gets wrecked, and then the other guy's like, what happened to my car? And my neighbor's like, and you're like, look, dude, my brother needs to use that car, and now I got to figure out, I sold that brother, I got the money for that car, and now I got to pay the repairs, which is more than what I spent on. So now we have like more than 100% saturation of these stocks into the marketplace, because these kids bought them all up, or these young people bought them all up, and now the hedge fund guys are like, I gotta buy, and they're sitting there holding them hostage, saying, no, I ain't gonna sell it back to you unless it's $1,000, and people are doing it. So now the hedge fund guys are buying back the stock at an overinflated price, more than what the market values it at, to have to return it to GameStop, and all the while GameStop stock just keeps going up, but it's not worth that much. It's a mythical inflation. The valuation of that company is not that great, despite what Michael Burry, Batman, says about it. So yeah, there you go. And that's sort of a kind of like gives you the idea of what happened in 2008, where these Lehman Brothers and these other investors, they packaged these toxic mortgages that nobody could possibly own. And it actually goes back to something called the Glass-Steagall Act from the 1930s maybe, but it was kind of massaged out of existence in the 1990s by the Clinton administration. So back in and this is shifting it even further to kind of explain what's happening right now, why I worry about these types of things. Back in 1999, the Glass-Steagall Act was sort of revoked in a sense to loosen regulations on banks and financial institutions being able to diversify into other businesses. This is why you got a bunch of Enrons and things happen. They diversified into things that they didn't necessarily should have been diversified into, like insurance and securities and all that stuff. Okay, so this was 1999, when the world was still sort of kind of okay, before things really took a shit for white people, middle-class white people. So yeah, in the 90s, middle-class white people were living large. Not everybody else was. And part of the idea of what was behind all this was to sort of make it easier to get housing for people who were not middle class white people. But the problem was is that they loosened the regulations in order to spark the financial industry, but they didn't watch what was happening in order for them to make that possible. So that's where all these bad things happened in the marketing, in the financial industry, because there was nobody there to watch them. And unfortunately, then 2 years later, we had 9/11, and the economy took a crap, and the airplane industry took a crap because of the terrorist attacks. So that's where we kind of got into a big problem where it's like, no, we can't pull back and watch the banking industry, because the only thing that's keeping us afloat is our ability to have credit. Because right now the economy sucks, but if we have credit, we're okay. And we didn't watch these things. We didn't double back and check on the things that we had done in the 90s, and that just let them run wild. And that's why we had Enrons and Lehman Brothers. And then in order to try to get the economy to even do better after we were in two different wars, and everything was kind of like on life support, the the housing industry decided that it was able to build houses and sell mortgages and get people to buy homes by promising them that, hey, look, we're going to give you these ridiculous loans that it'd be a shame to not, you're going to be at the end of the day, your home's going to be worth more than what you paid for it. But the problem is they didn't even have the money to pay for it. And then that's when this Michael Burry saw with the market saying these home loans are going to go toxic, because then people realized that the same thing, and they said, you know what, I can't do anything with this mortgage. These people can't pay this back. I'm going to attract it to another investor by saying, hey, we're going to rewrap a shit sandwich and say to the other guy saying, you know what, you want to get this. And they just had thousands upon thousands of these toxic mortgages packaged into these little securities that they said, I'll hold on to this, and then eventually I'll make my money back. And that didn't work. And then everything hit the fan when it realized that, there was a very big, huge bubble that had nothing inside of it, and it got popped. And then all of a sudden, the entire economy said, where's my money? And everybody else said, I don't got it. It's over here. And they said, where's my money? And nobody had it. And everything fell apart. And that's where the housing crisis led to the economy, that led to the recession going into the Obama administration, and it took forever to get out of that. And then we started to say, okay, well, maybe we need to have protections on people not being predatory lending and all stuff, payday loans and the Credit Protection Financial Bureau, that kind of thing. And then that got undone again in the last 4 years, and now here we are where a bunch of kids with apps decided to take hedge fund guys down a peg. But the unfortunate part is what does that do to the economy? We are sort of in a really, really, really volatile situation right now. We have got a pandemic that is affecting us with millions of people out of work, 400,000 plus dead. We're trying to get, and the economy is pretty much on shaky ground right now because nobody can go back to work because they can't be in public without, precautions, and not everybody can have those precautions work. And so, and then the kids are in school, or not in school, they're at home, so their parents can't be at the office, and maybe they can't, so they have to stay home, and they're not getting a paycheck. It's just, there's a very huge, shaky foundation underneath a very, very big house, and nobody's really watching it. And here's some guy at the end of the street saying, hey, watch what happens when we throw rocks at this house. Ha. And that's what this GameStop thing is a bunch of kids throwing rocks at a glass house that's built upon a shaky foundation. And I'm afraid that this is going to launch us into another financial crisis, even more so than we already are. So yeah, it's fun to take down the hedge fund boys. That's fine. But who are the hedge fund boys working for? The moms and pops who are betting against the market because they can't afford to be out of work right now with the crisis. And just here's the thing. We get it. We understand there's a revolution and you guys are leading the way. Kids are making it happen. But you need to have a better understanding of what you're actually doing, because if you don't, you may not understand that you're shooting yourself in the face. Okay? And that's all I'm saying. That's pretty much all I'm saying with that. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. That's my thoughts on the whole thing. The only other thing I can say to you is I'm kind of upset with Robinhood because they prevented people from buying the stocks. I get why they did it, but protecting Wall Street at the expense of people who, yeah, I get it, we're trying to do an op, but protecting Wall Street over protecting Main Street is not the way to do it. There should be reasons why Wall Street shouldn't do this, because that's what these hedge fund guys did. They're just giving them a taste of their own medicine. I get that. They're doing it in the wrong way, but I get it. The problem is there's no accountability for the guy in the middle that's doing the bad stuff. Everybody on the other end wasn't doing bad stuff. Okay, I don't know that they broke any laws. I can't tell you if they broke any laws, but the guys in the middle pretty much were trying to bet. And it's a lot of times it doesn't work, but I don't know why they thought that was going to work this time. But anyways, that's all I got. I know none of it makes a lot of sense, but promotionally what I'm trying to say is go watch The Big Short and you understand a little bit more about why this bothers me. Because we lived through it once and I don't want to live through it again. It was hard enough losing half of my 401k in 2008 when I was, 10 years out of college. I'm 20 some years out of college now, and I can't afford to lose my 401k. And it's sitting. I haven't really touched my 401k. I parked it into a stable account, so it didn't lose or gain that much over the last 4 years because I was afraid. And now I'm thinking about getting back into it, and this happens. So there you go. So yeah, I'm kind of selfish in my way, but that's all I got for tonight. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. If you like what you see on other videos, watch them, and also buy a shirt, because I don't make any money off these videos on YouTube because I can't monetize them, but I do have a merchandise wing, and I get a little bit of money from every shirt, sticker, mug, whatever is sold, and that helps me keep the lights on here at the Angry Gas. So please buy some merch. I promise you're going to get the whole thing, and I'm not going to ask for it back. And you guys take care of each other out there, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.